Jim Cornette is right about Orange Cassidy and AEW. We talk about it next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications on the best talk in AEW, WWE, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And don't forget to hit that bell for notifications as well. So, Ralph, tonight's topic is Orange Cassidy, the big AEW signing last week. And Jim Cornette obviously chiming in on this because he loves chiming in on the signees of AEW. So, Jim Cornette calls him Pockets, just like his little dog Pockets, basically because he wrestles with his hands in his pockets. And it's guys like Orange Cassidy, the cosplay wrestlers, as Cornette likes to call them, that he does not like and thinks that is going to lead to a failure for AEW. Ralph, is this too harsh or does he have a point?
Okay, so I definitely think he has a point. Now, I want to point out a few things before I go over exactly why I feel like Orange Cassidy could actually succeed in AEW. So I think the problem with a lot of what Jim Cornette does is he goes too far to the extreme when he's trying to make a point, meaning he can make logical points and everything he's saying is going to make sense as long as he does it in a way where people are willing to listen to him. But there's so much like profanity and certain things that he's saying that people just kind of tune out and they're like, no, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Number one, I can assure you that he does know what he's talking about. He has years upon years upon years of industry related experience. So he certainly knows what he's talking about. Now, I kind of share some of the concerns regarding Orange Cassidy, similar concerns that Jim Cornette does. But I do think he might be wrong in the sense that he doesn't think that this will ensure success for AEW. I actually think he'll be successful in AEW. So my problem with it is this. When you look at the goals that AEW has kind of set out for itself and some of the things they boast about and some of the things that they promise to be, I don't know how Orange Cassidy, the character, fits in with those goals and what they're trying to accomplish. So I went back because I was interested to see what AEW said they were going to be when they first announced that they were creating this alternate league, as they call it. You know, that's one of the things they was referred to it as, being a league, not saying it's professional wrestling. They want it to feel more real. They want it to be more sport-based. So they said that they promised a wrestling league. Warner Media and AEW together will build their powerhouse sporting league from the ground up. They then go on to say All Elite Wrestling is a talent-forward, fan-first league, again, whose inclusive approach to creating high-quality athletic wrestling competitions, notice I say competitions, is already making waves with fans and attracting top-tier wrestlers. Now, if I'm AEW and I'm a startup company, and this is a point I've made previously on our show, what should our number one goal be? Mainstream acceptance. Now, you've already told us that you're going to be more of a sporting league. You're going to be based more in sport, not going to be focused so much on drama, going to be an alternative. How Orange Cassidy fits in with all of those goals based on who he is as a character, I have not the slightest idea because I don't think he does. He's certainly an athletic individual who has wrestling ability. I'm never going to question anybody's wrestling ability. But the character itself, man, I mean, that's hard for me, even as a wrestling fan, to accept. And it's going to be even harder for first-time viewers of that product who are maybe a casual wrestling fan, a lapsed wrestling fan, to turn on the TV when you're being promised more of a sports league-type wrestling feel and see what he kind of brings to the table, at least at the beginning of his matches. That's my main concern with that. How does the character Orange Cassidy fit in with the realistic sports feel that they are promising to deliver?
Well, here's how I could rebuttal that. I'm not WWE obviously is entertainment first, then sport when it comes to sports entertainment. But when it comes to their title picture, their main title picture, obviously they want to build guys and they want to make sure they look good, especially over certain wrestlers. Now let's think back 15 years ago, 2004. Triple H, Kurt Angle, they were two of the biggest top names in the industry. Chris Benoit, before everything happened, was a big name. He was a champion at the time. But there was this one guy that was, for some reason, involved in the storyline. And to me, he's a lot like Orange Cassidy. When you first look at him, you think, WTF. Why is he in the ring? He has no business being in the ring. But then you watch him, and you're like, holy crap, this guy can wrestle. And because of that, he got super, super, super over. Do you know who I'm talking about, Ralph?
I'm sure I do, because I actually wrote down a few wrestlers who I think are comparable to Orange Cassidy, and I'm imagining you're probably talking about Eugene.
Yes, I am. He is Eugene 15 years later. Now, obviously, Orange Cassidy is not a savant character and, is not mentally challenged, or at least the character is not mentally challenged. But it's the same thing. You watch Orange Cassidy and you're like, what the heck is this guy? He's play kicking. Why would anybody take this guy seriously? But then as the match progresses, you're like, oh, the guy can wrestle. I'm invested in this guy. But here's the problem, Ralph. You only have one chance at a first impression. And Jim Cornette has shown you what his first impression is of Orange Cassidy. At the Casino Battle Royale, he said this guy's play kicking Tommy Dreamer, and he wants this guy out of the wrestling business. Now, I'm assuming that Jim Cornette has never watched an Orange Cassidy match to know this is kind of like a rope-a-dope, like what Muhammad Ali used to do. And, other fighters around the world have done the rope-a-dope, and this is basically wrestling's version of the rope-a-dope. But personally, I think the approach is a mockery to professional wrestling, because if you have a guy who's wrestling with his hands in his pockets and play kicking and play chopping, you're basically saying that wrestling requires no effort. Is that too harsh of a thing to say? Am I overthinking it, Ralph?
No, you're not overthinking it, because those are the same concerns I have with the character, not the man, not anything like that, not his wrestling ability. I'm talking about the character, and especially, like you said, the first impression that somebody's going to get when they turn on the TV as a lapsed fan or a fan who's never watched AEW, or just somebody who has a general interest in professional wrestling. You turn on that product after seeing what the bill of goods that AEW has promised to provide to you, and you see this guy throwing the fake chops, the fake kicks, you're probably going to think to yourself, well, what the hell is going on? Now, here's part of the problem. Professional wrestling all along has been essentially a simulated fight, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to convince the fans of the crowd to be invested in what you're doing and invested in something that's predetermined. Now, right. As wrestling fans, and this is the point, this is why I want people to pay attention to this. As a wrestling fan, or as a fan of AEW, or somebody who's already invested in the product, who's willing to invest their time and effort into getting into these characters and researching these characters, you are probably willing to accept all of the shortcomings or the nonsense that comes with Orange Cassidy and say, I'm going to root for this guy. If you are not, and you're one of those guys, or you're one of those casual fans, or somebody who's not into professional wrestling, how in the hell can you convince anybody who probably is going to be of the mindset that wrestling is fake and that wrestling is silly and wrestling is goofy to be invested in a product like AEW when they turn on their TV and they see something like Orange Cassidy throwing the play kicks, throwing the play chops? Well, now, I know people are going to get upset about this, and I know people are going to bash me in the comments, but don't think from the fan aspect. Think if you're an owner. Think of the goals of the company. As a startup company, you need to get mainstream acceptance from a fan base. You need to expand your fan base.
That's true.
Are you going to do that with Orange Cassidy? Probably not, but that's my main argument for the character itself. How does he fit in with the goals of the company? Is he going to get you millions upon millions of views and t-shirt sales and all of that stuff? Maybe he will. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally off on this. But if you're not, you have to think of it from the aspect of a non-wrestling fan. The one thing a non-wrestling fan always says to you is, wrestling's fake. Why do you watch wrestling? Wrestling's fake. It's silly. They know how to fall. They know how to punch. It doesn't really hurt. It's predetermined. That's the stuff that you have to overcome. We're willing to accept all of that as wrestling fans, but if you're not a wrestling fan, it's kind of like an Orange Cassidy type character is going to expose the business to a very, very large extent. And I understand where Jim Cornette is coming from in that respect.
Now, here's the thing. For years upon years upon years upon years, we have had comedy wrestlers or guys that have been extremely stupid gimmicks. From, like Orange Cassidy's, you have Toru Yano in New Japan Pro Wrestling, R-Truth, and yep. I mean, it's been the Bushwhackers going around licking fans. I mean, it's been going on forever and ever and ever. So there is a time and a place for comedy wrestling, and there is a time and a place for gimmicks. As much as I don't think Orange Cassidy will really work on AEW, he might, just because of the sheer fact of this. You look at all the top wrestlers in the world right now: Kenny Omega, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, on and on and on. The thing that's obvious about all of them is that their characters are very, very similar, and that there is no character. Kenny has somewhat of a character. Maybe I shouldn't put him in this bubble, but a lot of the top guys in professional wrestling today don't have a character. Orange Cassidy is a character first. So that uniqueness actually goes to his benefit. Let's put it, let's talk, in WWE's perspective right now. The most talked about guy in WWE right now is Bray Wyatt. You know how much ring time he's had in the last year? Less. 3.5 minutes. And that 3.5 minutes happened at SummerSlam. That is the only official match time he's had on television in the last year. And he's the most talked about character in WWE. Now, what's the second most talked about thing in WWE? The 24/7 championship, which revolves around R-Truth and Drake Maverick. And the only moves that I've seen them do in the last 3 months are roll-ups. So you don't necessarily need to have great moves. And this is part of the problem too. People are trying to say, oh, well, he's a good wrestler, so he's definitely going to succeed. No, push him with his character. And if you can push Orange Cassidy with his character, maybe it can work. But to me, I think the nonchalant, whatever kind of thing might work short term, but this is not a long-term success to me. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, and I here my final thoughts on this is this. We had a discussion going back several months ago about just where the wrestling industry is going and some of the disgruntlements that Jim Cornette has about the wrestling industry as a whole. And he says that, essentially the fans now really, they don't want professional wrestling. They want more of like the suicide dives, then the guys don't sell and all this and that. And where I think we're at in the industry is we're moving much more towards people who maybe they're not going to sell as much. Maybe it's more so about the high spots and the fast movements and the sequence and all of that. And maybe it is more, Cirque du Soleil than it is sport nowadays. But you know what? Like I said the last time we talked about something like this, if that's what the fans determine they want and that's what's going to ensure success, then that's just the direction that the industry is going to move in. Now, does Orange Cassidy fit within all of that? I think at the end of the day, he can be successful because he's so different and his character is so far removed from anything we've ever seen in the wrestling industry that maybe it does take something like that and take the character that is so far removed and so different than anything that's been done to, ensure success for him. And, whether I feel he's exposing the business or Jim Cornette feels he's exposing the business or you don't quite get his character, if you go and look at, the views on YouTube and you read some of the comments in the matches, people seem to gravitate towards him because there's something there's a level of genius within that type of character where, yeah, we get it. He's trying to play this essentially play this mind game with his opponent, where he's lulling him into this, thinking that he's got the upper edge, and then all of a sudden he makes his big comeback. It's essentially similar to what Hulk Hogan used to do back in the day. Hogan used to get beat up, and then there was the big comeback at the end of the match, and the crowd would go absolutely insane. Now, I'm not comparing him to Hulk Hogan. I'm just saying that it's a similar psychology to a certain extent. The big comeback is what gets the fans invested in it. And there's also the fact that, very much like the Daniel Bryan aspect to it, where people could relate to him, he's not a jacked guy. There's nothing really special about him. He just looks like an everyday average guy, and people gravitate towards that for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you can kind of relate to that type of character. But I think at the end of the day, Orange Cassidy, if he's booked correctly and he's not pushed to be the main guy, like a main event level guy, if he's mid-card and he's used correctly, the comedy type stuff, he'll be a big success in AEW.
Well, only time will tell when he debuts for AEW. I don't know. As of right now, he's not on the all-out card. So assuming he'll be a part of weekly programming, we'll see how the ratings look when Orange Cassidy's on. So let us know what you think. Is Orange Cassidy going to succeed or fail in AEW? Let us know with the poll above my head. Comment why you think so in the comments below. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. For Ralph Valenti, my name's Michael Valenti. Thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.